Falcha, welcome to the Honey Roads. La dum dee dee, la da dee, la da dee dee dee, la dum dee dee, la dee dee dee, la da dee dee, la dum dee dee, la da dee, la da dee dee dee, la dum dee dee. La dee dee dee, la dee. Here we are, wrapped in the sweetness in every direction on these honey roads. In the heavens above, the moon and stars wheel. In the earth below, we are just past the great Celtic fire festival of Lunasa, the turning of the strength of summer towards the harvest. The days are growing shorter, the nights are growing longer, but there's still a great deal of summer strength ahead of us. I'd like to start this episode of the Honey Roads with a favorite poem of mine. This poem is called Love After Love by poet Derek Walcott. And it goes like this. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile a welcome and say, sit here, eat, you will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the shelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life. I love the imagery in that poem. It reminds us that all of us sometimes have moments where we become strangers to ourselves, where we have lost a sense of daily connection with the dreams that nourish us, with our passions, with the things that bring us joy. I love the way he weaves those words to the idea of welcoming yourself back here of having a conversation with yourself. This is why people do ceremony. This is why people have a practice of meditation or yoga. It's to invite the self back, to have a conversation with the self so that we don't become strangers to ourselves. We are here, wrapped in the sweetness upon these honey roads. The journey we're on is a journey of the heart. And the heart is a fascinating and fragile thing. The heart remembers and our minds forget. On this journey of the heart, there are many lessons we learn. One of the ones that the old stories and the old songs teach is that the heart is a honeycomb, and the honeycomb is meant to be filled. Practices of ceremony and stillness remind us that the heart is a hearth, and like all of our ancestors of ages past, the hearth is meant to be tended. And so we use song and story to kindle the fire of the hearth, to fill the heart with sweetness. One of my favorite rememberings at this time of the year is a simple one that revolves around my great love of story and storytelling. I call it three-story bread. And so in case you're confused, this is not a cooking show, although that would be fun. But I thought I'd share with you the way in which I weave that notion of the nourishment of story, of old stories, of the stories of our lives, into nourishment for the body. And it's very simple. When I do this as part of workshops and ceremonies, we gather around in a circle. And we take a loaf of bread dough and cut it into 3 sections. Taking turns, we roll each of those 3 into a long strand that can be braided together into a whole. For stories bring us wholeness. Storytelling is not just for entertainment. It's a way of remembering what matters to us. And I often think when I look at the stories I tell myself, I forget how powerful those stories are. The stories we tell ourselves open doors and close them all the time. They can bring about a sense of possibility and a sense of despair. I think there are 3 kinds of stories we tell ourselves. The first, it's a favorite from childhood. It's called the happily ever after story. You know the one. You've told it to yourself. The thing that we can find that will make it so that we'll never know sorrow again. We'll never know challenge again. The technique, the technology, the person, the home, the dream job, the thing that will bring us to happily ever after. And sometimes we forget the joys of where we are, hoping for some happily ever after that is nothing more than a moment in time. It's not forever after. The second kind of story that we tell ourselves, particularly in adult bodies, is the story of happily never after. And this is a story of angst, anxiety, and fear. If you are an adult, you have known this story. Happily never after, maybe it comes after an election. Maybe it comes after reading a troubling headline. Maybe it comes after the troubling news or the heartbreak. But that story comes along with a wave of feeling that there will never be joy again. we'll never find our way forward again. This story is not true either. But it can be true of moments or seasons in our lives. And the third kind of story that we tell ourselves is the story of happy now. In the midst of all of the struggles, in the midst of all of the challenges. And that's a story that has a particular power because it can invite us to look a little more closely at the here and now, at the things that are beautiful, joyful, the things our heart sings with gratitude for. But as a human being, those three stories are woven into our lives in powerful ways. And so we weave the three threads of dough into one, bake it with a little bit of melted butter on top. You'd be amazed at what it does to the flavor. And at the end, we share that bread amongst ourselves. One of my favorite traditional story patterns begins in this way. You've probably heard a tale like it before. It's one of those tales that tells of the foolish youngest daughter or the foolish youngest son, the one full of dreams, the one with perhaps very little common sense about the games the world plays. And this youngest child, whether it's the youngest son or the youngest daughter, usually has two older siblings. And when the time comes for the three of them to make their way out into the world, in the story, each of them goes to the mother. And the mother sits down with each of her children and she asks, "Which will you take with you on the road to nourish you?" She takes a loaf of bread and she breaks it in two. One piece is very big, the other very small. She says, "Which will you take with you? The great half and my curse, or the small half and my blessing?" And without fail, in these old stories, the older brothers or older sisters who are wise in the way of the world, but foolish in the way of the heart, without fail, they say, "I'm not a fool. I will take the great half. Your blessing isn't going to fill my belly." And off they go into the world and they are forgotten from the story because they no longer matter. They're no longer on a great journey. But the youngest, the one who has been teased, ostracized, called a fool, without fail in these stories says, "I will take the small half and your blessing." And this changes everything. So in the turning of the great wheels, the wheel of the seasons that sings all around us, the wheels of the heavens above us that await you in the weeks ahead, may you find the nourishment you need. May you find grace and strength in the stories you choose to tell yourself. And may you always be a little bit of the fool who chooses the small half and the blessing, for that changes everything. Until we meet again next time.